Before we start the video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel and activate the bell button so that you can receive everything new from us. In the year 10,191, there was a planet called Arax. The planet in front of you is currently the planet Arax. This planet is a very remote planet. You will not find it. There is a lot of sand in every direction, but this sand is not ordinary, but rather very strong sand. It is enough to penetrate iron in times of storms and hurricanes, and it is full of storms and tornadoes. The people who live in Rax are a few tribes and call themselves Al-Ramin. They are almost the only tribes that are still alive to this day and alive on this planet, so they know, of course, how to adapt and make themselves shields that can withstand strong winds. What is happening there, but the idea is that this planet is not as strong a monster as it is. Do you remember that there is a specific substance called spices? These spices are very abundant in an unnatural way on this planet, and are only found on approximately Arax on this planet, but these spices provide the life of human beings, God forbid, and they can also make intergalactic travel a very easy thing that you can say is the same. Gasoline is very powerful, and therefore without it, traveling across galaxies and stars is impossible. That's why you always find everyone wanting to plunder this planet in an unnatural way. Of course, the Romans, who are the people of this planet, are stronger, and they would not let anyone steal spices from their planet, and anyone who tried to plunder would wage war against him. But unfortunately, because of their small number, there were other planets that would come and steal spices from them without being able to do so for the rest of the day. One day, a group of people named Al-Harki came to take the largest amount of spices found on the planet Arax, and they actually did that and continued to rampage in it, and no one knew how to stop them, even though the people of the planet Arax tried very hard to defend the place. But the cats were stronger, and the spices also made them stronger and stronger. But one day Rakana probed the planet completely by decision and contract of the Emperor, and the Emperor, by the way, is the ruler of all. The planets of the world are very, very good. I remember that this story is very good, and focus with me on what is coming. This is Paul. Paul was born and lives on a planet called this planet. And note that before we continue the video, I will name many planets for you, at my convenience, because for humans in this time, space travel was literally a game for them. I mean, you will find that there are many planets that remember all the time. The important thing is that Paul remains, the son of Duke, Leto Atreus I, and you can say that the word Duke is exactly like king of the entire planet. The important thing is that his mother's urine also remains in my hands. Jessica Woody has a very high status because she is the wife of the Emperor and also the mother of the Crown Prince, but in general she is very strong because you can call her a common witch. Paul had always dreamed of a girl like that living on the planet Arax, even though he had never seen this girl or even gone to the planet Arax, so that was all there was. It caused him constant vomiting. The strangest thing was that after a short period of time, a messenger came from the Emperor, assigning Abu Paul, who is Leto, to he goes to assume the sovereignty of the planet Arax. Of course, he agreed against his will because no one can refuse any request from the Emperor. After a while, Paul met Duncan, and Duncan decided to call him Leto's sworn assistant and also the commander of the soldiers. Look, he is very important to the general public, and above all, he is Paul's friend. Duncan told Paul now that he will go with a group of Leto's soldiers to the planet Arax tomorrow. Paul told him that he wanted to go with him, but Duncan refused because he was not in any danger in general. After a while, Paul began to tell Abu Leto to ask him that he and Duncan go to Arax, but Leto told Paul that giving the planet Arax to us after they took the Emperor from the world is 100% certain that there will be a war, and very soon Fleeto wants Duncan to go and be the first to do it. He allied himself with the Rumman tribes, because without them, if not all of his people would easily lose to the Herc if they decided to do so. There is a war on them while they are on the planet Rajas. At the moment, Paul accepts his father's words because they are actually true. For your information, everyone is afraid of being attacked in an unnatural way because they are really stronger in a way that makes them into monsters that are not human, and this is all because of the large amount of spices that they took from Arax over the past years. Wow, the ones in front of you are the Harak, and the most important people among them for us are Vladimir Harak, who is the leader of all of the Harak, and also the captain, Harak's nephew and Lemmy's armor. The important thing is, sir, that Paul will have a few weeks left, and after that he will finally go with Lady and his father Leto to the planet Arax, and there they will be received by Savare, the king's second assistant, after Duncan along. I mean, the idea remains that the people of the planet that we found there were unfertilized, It is natural that they celebrate his will and his entire family, even though they do not want to celebrate anyone that they certainly will not love. It is someone who is not one of them who rules them anyway. After a while, when Paul entered the palace where he was going to stay with his father and mother, why is there a sculpture of a worm sacred to the two men? It is called the sandworm. This is a strange worm, 400 meters long, and it always appears in the desert, and you think he is still not comfortable. He stayed in his room and slept. And go a little hop. Why is an insect called a hunter in front of him and wants to kill him? But thank God she died quickly before she could do anything to him. At that time, the world stopped and the guards began to search everywhere in the place for the person who was controlling this insect until they found him, and it turned out that he was one of the Haraka, and he was hidden in the royal origin here without anyone knowing at this moment. Sofer started to secure the place more and more so that everyone would stay safe in general. After a while, Duncan came and sat with Lita and everyone. He told him, I stayed with the Al Ruman group for 4 weeks, and I agreed with the leader of them on the alliance, and that leader's name was Steelguard. Duncan said that Steelguard will come after a while and we will break away. Steelguard arrived, and the first thing he did when he saw Leto was to attack him, but in general, it's not a big problem. Because it was an honorary thing, don't ask me how important it is that Rito was offered an alliance, so Steelguard said it was possible. He agrees, but on the condition that when you ally with us, you leave the magicians to all the Femin people, and you only go inside the kingdom surrounded by your walls at this moment. I wish they said Steelguard. I will think and answer him. After that, he left and walked away. After a while, he began to see King Leto's conditions on the planet in which he lives and the main mission. Of course, what anyone who comes to this planet must do is dig for spices, and sending all the rest of these spices to the rest of the planets of the world is a matter for Leto. Now, the supervisor of all this talk is brought to them. Dr. Lit Kniz came to them, and she is considered to be a follower of the Rams and not a follower of them at the same time. She is of the same race as them. Yes, but she works with the colonists in prospecting for spices, which means she is not very popular. Who forgot it? The important thing is that now every group wears feminine suits. These are suits that protect those who wear them from the harsh climate. It belongs to the planet Rax, and it also lets you drink water from your own sweat after it is recycled so that you do not get thirsty in the desert. But after a while, they took each plane with a doctor and went to explore the conditions of exploration and understand more about it in this desert. While in the desert, they saw that there was a giant spice mining machine, which was supposed to mean that this machine. She prefers to dig all day in the desert and get as many spices as possible, otherwise the sandworm will not come to her. Immediately, a transporter comes quickly and takes the excavation machine and returns to the kingdom, and so on, but Rito and the doctor have fulfilled their limits and now it is coming for them. The problem is that the transporter that was supposed to transport the excavation machine to the kingdom broke down at this moment, so Leto was forced to go with the planes he had in order to save the workers inside the excavation machine, because the worm, you can eat them all at any moment, and they actually reached them, and there Paul came down with the guards because they took people out of the excavation machine, but while they were taking them out, he hit his face, urinating some spices, and he had taken off his mask, so he fell to the ground and could not walk for a strange reason, but thank God an assistant came back. I wish he had quickly taken them, and they took all the planes and quickly fled the place, and they literally saw in front of them the worm swallowing the excavation machine. Exactly like a seed. After a while, when they returned to the whole kingdom, he started telling his mother in hand and said, she told her that he did not feel tired when the spices hit him in the face. Rather, the first time the spices hit him, he had a vision once. That was strange. He saw this vision of the girl who always comes to him in his dreams. The strange thing is that this time, this girl killed him with a knife. He also told her, I also knew from my dreams that you were pregnant. Of course, the mother was very surprised by this because she was actually pregnant, but in the end she accepted this. Because she is basically a witch, this talk has happened to her a lot. A long time had passed since all of this, and the night came and everyone was asleep at that time. I found no one who could not see who was in all of the king's guards, and here the king woke up and went out to see what was going on, so they hit this man with an arrow that instantly paralyzes anyone. And here we learn that this man is the kingdom's doctor and did this because Reuben and his group of cats kidnapped his wife, and they threatened her if he didn't come to Hamish Leto. But the doctor also said, now, Leto, I really hate the corner and I'm doing this just because of my wife. And for that reason, I'll give you a tooth instead of one of your teeth, because this tooth contains poison or something that came close to Vladimir, the ruler of the corner, stepped on it, so I'll take it now. They traveled outside and around the kingdom, and they had planes and giant spacecraft with them, a large, powerful, and gigantic army, and immediately they began to destroy the entire kingdom, starting from Karadiabia. At that moment, the soldiers quickly got out to board their plane and fight, but Harak destroyed it before they could board the plane, so they were forced to fight with swords on the ground. But because the soldiers were not ready and the war was too much for them, the kingdom was occupied. From the commotion at that time, Duncan was healthy, the second one, and he preferred to stay in the turmoil one and one followed the other and looked for Paul and his mother's son. But he did not care because the Harak kidnapped them and now wanted to throw them in the desert near the sandworms in order to kill him. When he found them, Duncan went to play outside and killed many of the guards from the corner. He took a plane from them and ran quickly to catch up to Paul, but Paul and his mother were not there. Throwing from above, he used the magician's urine that his mother had taught him before and left the man. He relieved his mother, and thus she was able to complete the rest of the magic and kill them all. But the Rachna knew what had happened now from a distance, so he disrupted the plane that had Paul and his mother on it in the middle of the desert and landed them in the desert. But Paul and his mother found a bag on the plane, so they took him, and after that they decided to run to return to the kingdom and join his guardian, but they were lost. In front of them they found from afar a stagnant god who destroyed the entire kingdom and blew it away, and those who remained of it took it for themselves at that moment. They were upset with my son over Leto. They now knew that he and all the soldiers had been killed. After a while they all returned to the plane again and opened the bag. They found in it something that the doctor had left for them, including Leto's salad ring. They asked everyone, so they remained sitting, not knowing what to do. By the way, I wish he was still with the cat and Arrow. The one who was taken was still unable to move, and they had all his clothes removed, and were sitting in front of Vladimir, the commander of the station, with all despicableness. The idea here is that at this time the doctor came in to take his wife from them. Today they killed her and went on to kill him. He also at that time, Demir was near Leto to gloat over him. He sprayed poison in his face and on and on. Vladimir and all his assistants died, and unfortunately Leto died with them, but Duncan went to the doctor after a while. In order to save Paul and his mother, because she was his destiny in the desert, of course, more than him, and after a while because I wish they could reach them, Duncan told them that unfortunately Leto died, and therefore Paul is our new king, and I will protect with all my might. After that, they took some of them and left the place completely. Denki at this time was not able to return. He urinated in the kingdom because it was very dangerous, and he did not know what to do. The doctor said to him, "I wish there was a safe place for her to live." And some of the Femin people went there. After a while, they all reached the place where she was living. I wish it looked exactly like a temple. There were some of the Femin people living with her there. At that time, he told her, "Let the Femin people help me, and when I become King Manani, I will make her a man like heaven, and there is water in it of all kinds." On the one hand, no one will respect anyone else, and he still hasn't finished talking. Why are some other soldiers following the Emperor, the commander of all? The planets went to kill Paul, and this means that even the greatest emperor could not stand against the hijacking, so he decided to stand on their side. At that time, Duncan closed the door on Paul and those with him, so that Duncan held off the soldiers until Paul and his mother did not escape. Paul did not want to escape, and he wanted to help Duncan, his friend, but that's it. Duncan locked the door and started fighting with the soldiers, right and left, in some language. Unfortunately, he was hit with a sword more than once. He couldn't stand up again and died. As for Paul and those with him, they escaped through a back door. She wished she knew him. Then she made 2 suits for Paul and his mother and let them go to the Femin tribes to help him. As for her, she started doing something to disrupt the rest of the Emperor's soldiers who were currently trying to reach them, but unfortunately she was asking for help. 2 more of the Emperor's soldiers killed her from her back, but she was done asking for help. The sandworm has now come and has finished with everyone. If you ask me how I regret it, I will tell you that it hit the ground because of the vibrations. I heard it because of the vibrations and came to eat everyone. As for Abel and his mother, they took a plane and kept walking towards the Ramin tribes. They kept walking and walking and walking, but as they walked, they found that there was a heavy dust storm. Very suddenly it came out in their place, so they tried to climb over it, but the whole plane was broken and fell to the ground. But the most important thing is that they are all safe in general. They wore all the Femin suits that I gave them. I wish they continued on, the road remained walking, but of course, so that they could walk without the worm feeling them and coming to eat them, so they had to walk. This is strange. It meant that the wind was hitting the sand, meaning it was walking. It was very light, and the worms did not feel it, and in fact they kept walking like this all night until they reached the sand in which it was not smooth, and every movement in it was literally loud, and therefore the sandworm came to them at that time and they all preferred to run from it. But naturally it was the largest and fastest, so it reached them. But before it ate them, the worm heard a sound. She said a spice dig was going on somewhere nearby, so I cursed Paul and ran at her all the way, but I know what that means. What does it mean that Vladimir has not been present and is currently working with his Herrick army and prospecting for spices? In fact, in the kingdom, he met Vladimir at the last moment and he was going to die, so he was saved and they put him in the air. He was asked for spices so that his strength would return to him again, and this is what actually happened, and he came back again. The important thing is, sir, Paul and his mother, after the worm caught them, took each other's parts, and here you are, running, until they finally reached Steel. Jared, who was going to make an alliance with Leto before, and there they asked him to return them to the mother planet, both Danes, and there he would help and do for them whatever they wanted. But Steelguard wanted to kill them now because, firstly, they did not have anything to offer him in return, and secondly, there was no alliance between them. They could kill him, but of course Steel. Jared is going to kill Paul, who is already considered a king now, and also a magician, and above all, he has his mother, who... It's also a witch, so he definitely couldn't defeat them, and at that moment he recognized their power and decided to help them out of respect for him. But before they finally left, Paul saw the girl he always saw in his dreams, whose name, by the way, was Shani. In general, Steelguard was still going to take them and go to their village. Someone like that named Gomez would appear to them. He was always there. They also saw Paul in his dreams, and then Gomez told Steelguard that what Lady or Paul is your problem, so you are not our leader again. He asked that he be the one who remains the leader and challenged Lady, and whoever wins is the one who remains the leader. But Lady is a witch, and they cannot fight, and this is according to their custom. I mean, Paul is the one who will kill Gomes. At that time, Shani gave him a sword before the fight started. It is made of sandworms, and she told him that this sword is very strong and will help you, and that knowledge is my business. You do not know anything at all about Paul or his dreams at all, and you do not know anything at all. Nothing about him at all, but she did that out of the goodness of her heart and nothing more. In general, they took Paul and started killing him, and every time Paul hit him, he was going to kill him, but he was not satisfied because he had never killed anyone before. But in the end, he knew that there was no solution other than death, so he was forced to do so. He kills him at this moment. Steelguard said to him, "You are now one of us, and you can return to our village with us." Lady said, "Paul, no, we have to go back to our planet." But Paul said to her, "No, that's it. I won't run away again, because when my father Leto came here, the first thing he wanted to do was an alliance. I must make this alliance and eliminate Vladimir once and for all. My friend, was very afraid of the idea of returning here. But she had no choice but to agree, and they actually took the Steelguard and went to their village, which is from... As soon as they approached him, they began to see the features of the strength of the ramen people, such as they saw one of the ramen people literally blowing a sandworm and the movie ends. But will Paul be able to kill Vladimir? Will he and his mother be able to return to their planet? Or will they form an alliance and wage a giant war? We will see all of this in the next part.